Thank you for coming. I'm so happy to be here. I never thought that I will have a full experience of Turkish hammam in a military building in Sarajevo.
Gospodine Pamuk, na početku našeg razgovora želim se obratiti našoj publici zbog jednog važnog trenutka za našu izdavačku kuću Book. Naime, kako je došlo do toga da smo dobili autorska prava za vaše knjige. Vi ste bili na Canneskom festivalu 2007. godine, sjećam se, bio je maj. Bili ste član žirija kojim je predsjedavao Steven Frears i vama na sto je došlo nekoliko ponuda i BiH izdavača. Vi ste odabrali nas. Za par dana došao je ugovor od vaše agencije i dole u donjem ćošku s desne strane svojom rukom ste napisali svoj popis. Ushićenje koje sam imao tada je isto ushićenje koje imam i sada. Dakle, prvi put sjedim sa ovako jednim važnim čovjekom, velikim svjetskim piscem, Nobelovcem i mislim da je to jedna ogromna čast koju je ukazao nama svojim dolaskom u Sarajevo. Gospodine Pamuk, dobrodošli i moje prvo pitanje.
Please don't exaggerate. If you exaggerate, then I will be also pompous, posing, acting. Yes. I'm very happy to be with Book. He's a great editor. I'm very happy to be published by him.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's wonderful sentences. The first question is how, odnosno prvo pitanje koje vam želim upitati, želim vas upitati, kako to da ste postali pisac?
People think that one becomes a writer. Oh, I don't want to hear the Bosnian translation. You know.
You can put it here.
Okay, how did I become a writer? I actually wanted to be a painter. I come from a family of engineers. It was accepted in my family of engineers, my father, my uncles, even my grandfather was a civil engineer who did railroads, made some money. So it was expected of me that I become an engineer like that. But unfortunately, I was more artsy, drawing in the school, at home. So they decided that I will be both an engineer and a painter. Later, that was a bit converted to an architect and a painter, like Le Corbusier. But all these continued till the age of 22. In fact, I explained in my book, Istanbul, why I did not become a painter, but a writer. There is not a one single explanation. But hoping to be a painter one day, I was solitary. I had, till the age of 22, or till now, a solitary life. A life of the artist is always, the painter, the writer is solitary. So I prepared myself to a life. I wanted a life in which I will not receive orders from my superiors, nor I will give orders to people below me, but I want to be independent and pursue my own fantasies, thoughts, creativity. I prepared myself for painting, but as I explained in the last sentence of my book, Istanbul, then I switched to writing.
It's a wonderful sentence at the end of one book. Thank you for that sentence. Vaš prvi roman, please put it there.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
Vaš prvi roman, Cevdet i njegovi sinovi, napisali ste 1979. godine. Roman je dobio veliku tursku nagradu Miljet, a objavljen je tek 3 godine kasnije, 1982. godine. Zašto je toliko dugo čekao na objavljivanje?
Okay, my first novel, Cevdet is a long novel, and at that time Turkish economy was poor, and not many novels were published. Even if you win a prize, they were not publishing because they thought it is an expensive investment and will not return the money. Although I won a prize, I had trouble getting it published, my first novel, but then later I enjoyed. I don't want to be critical of Turkish publishers at the time, but they were not inventive in a way, yes.
Roman zove se Crvena.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Roman Zovem se Crvena objavili ste 1998. godine. Ovdje dolazi do izražaja vaš slikarski talent koji ste sad pominjali, koji vas stalno prati. I da li je to ovaj poseban podatak, da li je to što pišete rukom, vi ste i dalje pisac koji pišete rukom, da li je to ostatak tog, da kažem, slikarskog manira da se radi rukom, da li je to razlog zašto i dalje svoje romane pišete rukom, a onda kažete nekoga nađete da vam to prekuca?
Yes, it's like that.
Ali kažete da vam nađete neku grupu ljudi da vam to prekuca. To više ljudi moraju da rade, da prekucavaju to.
Yes, my publisher types my things.
Okay. Govor na dodjeli Nobelove nagrade u potpunosti posvetili ste svom ocu. On je jedna od ključnih figura vaše literature. Možete mi reći šta je ostalo nedorečeno među vama dvojicom?
Well, tough questions. Like a psychologist, he's asking, what is unsaid between you and your father? First of all, are you sure that there are things that are unsaid between me and my father? Even if there are unsaid things, probably there are so many unsaid things between our fathers, but most of the time there are so many unsaid things, but we are not aware of these unsaid things. If I suddenly become aware of the unsaid things between me and my father, I will probably write about it before telling to this nice audience. Maybe it's not nice or it's complicated. Deep questions about our personality, our fathers. Fathers are important for me. I wrote about fathers in a more complicated way in Red-Haired Woman. Also, my Nobel speech is also about the influence of my father on my work. But about the unsaid things, whoa, that's a tough question. Maybe, I don't know, maybe unsaid things are said in different ways. Maybe, what is saying? Maybe we express ourselves with our looks, with our eyebrows, with our faces. There is always communication between father and a son, not necessarily by words, sometimes by other ways.
U drugim bojama knjiga u drugim bojama knjiga vaših zabilješki knjiga vaših zabilješki i neki drugih tekstova koji zove Druge boje, zapisali ste jednu rečenicu da, parafraziram, smrt svakog muškarca počinje smrću njegovog oca.
Yes, but you are telling my best sentences, then there's nothing left for me to tell. Yes, I wrote that. Thank you for me.
ali moramo podsjetiti publiku na jednu tako važnu rečenicu koju ste napisali. Za mene je to jedna od najvažnijih rečenica koju sam pročitao u vezi odnosa oca i sina. Ovo pitanje volim, jako sljedeće pitanje volim. Knjigu Istanbul grad sjećanje objavili ste 2003. godine. otvara je citat vašeg velikog književnog uzora Ahmeta Rasima. On je rekao da je ljepota predjela u njegovoj melanholiji. Kolika je zaista ta istanbulska melanholija da u nju stane sva ljepota predjela?
Okay, I wrote my book Istanbul. First of all, I've been living in Istanbul all my life. This is a very popular question. They ask me, are you in love with Istanbul? Are you fascinated by Istanbul? Are you obsessed by Istanbul? No. It's very normal that I wrote about people I know, my family. All writers write about their friends, their families, people they know, their experiences, and they think that they are actually writing particularly about these people. We write about humanity through the people we know. But I come across the people I know, humanity, in Istanbul. I was not self-conscious. I never said to myself, wow, I'm writing about Istanbul, what a beautiful city. It's not like that. Since I was living in Istanbul, I wrote about people I met. It's like going to an American writer. Wow, you're writing about America all the time. Are you obsessed with America? Well, it's natural that we write about these places. I am saying this cautiously so that my attitude about me writing about Istanbul, I don't want to sugarize it. Some 20 years after I began writing, I began to think about also writing my memories. And of course, my days, that means my days in Istanbul. Then I decided to write this autobiographical book, Istanbul, which is partly an essay about the qualities of the city. What are the qualities of the city, I was asking. Every city leaves a mark on our spirits, on our souls. And I was exploring this question, what does Istanbul do to me or to people who is walking inside Istanbul? And I argued that in my childhood, in 1950s, 60s, 70s, till 80s, when Turkey was very poor, and the city of Istanbul left a sort of a melancholy, or Turkish melancholy, hüzün on us. This was related to the fact that we were living on the remains of an empire that disintegrated. We were also living at the edge of Europe, where we were aware of the fact that Europeans were much successful and richer and happier in a way. And these gave me the idea of, and also there was overabundance of ruins of old Ottoman modernity, which I cared about. And also, in 1950s and 60s, Istanbul was full of wooden houses that then later burned down one by one till 2000s. So I was living and seeing all this, and this gave me a feeling of melancholy. And I also argued that this melancholy that I discover in the city, or a sort of reflects my feelings, is also a sort of a philosophy of life. That Turkish melancholy is, or hüzün, is also a sort of a philosophy of being modest, not demanding too much in life, never venturing too much, and also it's about it is something what an American academic referred to in Japan. An American professor was writing something about Japanese culture, and he said there is a sort of a nobility of failure, not putting success on a pedestal, but respecting nobility. This I liked, this I found in Turkish Istanbul hüzün. Then I tried to associate landscapes or urbanscapes of Istanbul with this philosophy. At the age of 15, 16, 17, till the age of 22, I was going out to streets of Istanbul and taking black and white photographs and then making paintings based on them, like French painters, Utrillo, Pissarro. So I was thinking about the relationship between landscape and the feelings. We all know that the beauty of landscape is also related to its power of evoking feelings, sentiments in us. That's why I put that at the beginning.
At the beginning. Ne znam se tačno u razgovoru s vama, malo prije pitao sam vas koja je knjiga konkretno odredila to za šta ćete dobiti Nobelovu nagradu. Pa ljudi misle nekad da je to knjiga Istanbul, nekad da je to Snijeg. Naravno, to je za ukupno književno djelovanje koje ste pokazali i obrazloženje Švedske akademije je da je u potrazi za melanholičnom dušom njegovog rodnog grada on otkrio nove simbole za sukob i preplitanje kultura. Ta formulacija je nešto što mislite da je odgovarajuće? Da li je ta formulacija odgovarajuća, da li su oni kao žiri pogodili tačno dušu vašeg djela? Kao Švedska akademija, kao žiri.
What is my soul of my work?
Da li su tačno pogodili ovim obrazloženjem? Da li su tačno rekli da se to odnosi na vaše djelo?
Yeah, I don't know. When they give a Nobel Prize, they also say something, but I don't want to comment on that. I'm happy that I received the prize. Okay. I don't know what they thought. I didn't ask them. I'm happy that they gave. If they give you a prize, you don't ask, oh, why did you give me this prize? I had a lot of fantasies about why they gave me prize, and also all the political enemies also had a lot of fantasies about why they gave me the prize. I don't know. I don't want to comment on this.
Thank you. Stižemo sada do Muzeja nevinosti, jednog vašeg kapitalnog projekta. Postoje, ja volim reći, dva muzeja nevinosti. Jedna je knjiga, a drugi je stvarni muzej nevinosti. Koji vam je draži?
Yes. Okay. I wrote a novel called Museum of Innocence, and I opened in 2011 a museum called Museum of Innocence. The novel was published in 2008, and the museum opened in 2011. Actually, I thought about it simultaneously. It's not that one day I wrote a successful novel, and wow, it's a successful novel, why don't I open it, a museum of it? No. It was not like that. I thought about the museum and the novel simultaneously, and it's the logic of the museum is inside the novel. The poetics of the museum is explained inside the novel. The logic is very simple. I wanted to exhibit in a museum all the objects, things, photos, landscapes that are in a novel, in a building, in an exhibition, in a museum, and publish a novel that covers these objects. The story that illustrates this logic is a love story. An upper middle class Istanbul boy who is just about to marry a girl suitable for him suddenly falls in love with a twice removed cousin who is from relatively poor by class, and And unfortunately, it's like melodramatic, slightly melodramatical story, just like in Turkish movies. The girl marries someone else, and the guy pursues the girl for many years and visits and begins picking up things from her house. And in the end, this happens, that happens. Then the guy, at the sad end of the story, has all these objects and makes a museum with that. Not only that, he also makes the museum in the building the girl is living with her family and converts the family house into a museum building exhibiting all the objects especially she touches, she honors.
Nastavit ću vas pitati nešto i dalje o muzeju.
Suddenly there's no translation.
No translation. Je li možemo dobiti prijevod?
And what is this question about?
It's a question about that you've been in a half of your novel, writing a novel. You've been in a half going to the Stockholm to receive a Nobel Prize.
How great?
You've been in the middle of the novel. Writing.
Yes. You're asking, yes. But this is not working, by the way.
Možete li ovo popraviti?
You're asking me, in 2006, they called me and I received this prize from Stockholm, but I was busy with another novel, so that did not change my life too much.
Because there was rumors around that it would be high pressure for you to continue writing a novel after you got the Nobel Prize.
I was in the middle of Museum of Innocence and I finished it.
You finished in a wonderful way. It's a masterpiece. Thank you for that. Ja bih molio ako se može ovo popraviti, ali do you still collect the things for the museum? Do you still collect them?
Oh yes. Now the Museum of Innocence is open for the last 8 years, and I am attached to objects. For example, I was writing Strangers in my thank you. I was writing Strangers in my mind. Then a story about a boza vendor, a street seller, a yogurt seller. Then I automatically, by itself, without having big plans, I begin to look for all the objects they were carrying, say, especially the bell, the bells of street vendors of Istanbul. Or with the new novel I'm writing, which is a historical novel, which is also partly about using telegraph in the year 1901, and at that time there was no internet. The internet of that time was telegraph. So I found Turkish telegraph guidebooks, objects. Then there are also, when you're sending government political telegraphs, they are coded. Telegraph coding. Instructions for telegraph coding in Ottoman Empire. There are books like that. I am finding these books, not because I'm going to make an exhibition, maybe I may, but just for the strength of the objects. Objects have power. In fact, the Museum of Innocence is all about that. We all know Marcel Proust's Madeleine. The guy, the narrator, without planning, eats something, a lot of memories come. My version of this is a bit slightly different. We go to a cinema. We have the ticket. We put the ticket in our pocket. Then we forget the ticket in the pocket for 20 years. Then one day we again put that coat. Oh, here is that ticket. What is that ticket? What film? Oh, yeah, you already forgot about that film. There was a film you saw with this ticket. then you suddenly begin to remember the film you completely forgot about. Then the more you think, this object brings back the film. That I know from my life, I argue that objects bring back past. Not only that, now that we know that objects bring back past, we also look at the objects with, this may bring me back past. In Proust, remembering is involuntary. The guy eats his Madeleine, but he didn't have any plan to remember past. He's just doing something else. While Madeleine slyly brings memories. While Kemal, in Museum of Innocence, meticulously plans to remember. In fact, I am more like Kemal, less like Proust. In Proust, remembering is involuntary. He doesn't plan to remember. Suddenly, remembering comes. It is another force that makes him remember. While Kemal, or me, I live my life slightly, partly, also thinking this is a good life, but it will be even better to remember it. I have a philosophy of like that. That is, people like that, Kemal, collects objects to remember. And hopes that this object will bring back what we live today. So for me, objects are very important. From also in my black book, in my other books, I've tried to focus on objects. I care about still life painting. The French writer, for example, Perec, Georges Perec, is also another writer I admire because he has also a focus on objects.
Ne mogu da vas ne upitam za lika Kemala Basmadžija. Kemal Basmadži, prezime Basmadži dolazi od riječi basma, što također znači jedna vrsta laganog pamuka. Dakle, dali ste mu nešto jako blisko svom prezimenu, a mnogi su vas pitali da li ste vi Kemal. Jedno ste mi ispričali priču između upoznavanja vaše majke i oca. Možete li nam to sada reći?
Kemal is not by name, his name is not close to me. I never thought of that. But yes, he is living also like me in Nişantaşı. Kemal is 5 years older than me. I think what makes me and unites me and Kemal is we are both from Nişantaşı neighborhood of Istanbul, which is upper middle class, secular, westernized neighborhood. And I feel we are kicked out of it. Me, because I like literature, and then when literature implies politics or this kind of thing, they don't like me, maybe. But Kemal was kicked out because of different reasons. He was kicked out because he had an embarrassing love affair and everyone was making fun of him, while it was not that ridiculous for me.
Malo prije ste pomenuli jedan vaš veliki roman koji se zove Čudne misli u mojoj glavi. Objavljen je 2014. godine. On završava maestralnom rečenicom koju Mevlut govori samom sebi. Ja sam na ovom svijetu najviše volio Reihu. Kako ste sakupljali građu za ovaj roman?
We are now talking about The Strangers in My Mind, and my novel that covers years in 1970 to 2010s, covers a sort of a history of Istanbul seen through the eyes of a street vendor. The book is about immigration to Istanbul from Anatolia, from poor parts of Turkey, how the immigrants begin to get integrated to the city and they change the city, how they build their shanty houses with their own hands. But it's also a love story. It is my attempt to write about lower classes. And this is the book that I did a lot of research about. that I talk with street vendors, people who are selling yogurt, boza, rice and chicken, all sorts of food in the streets. Also, electricity bill collectors, police. I had a lot of interviews with police. With all these people, I did a lot of interviews. And when I began doing that, I began to think, I'm getting to be a bit more social novelist than I wanted to be. But this is what I was doing. In fact, at home now, I have a huge bank or pile of many, many interviews from that I did with many types of people in Istanbul. I like doing interviews, and maybe I'll talk about this. The hardest part is to convince a person that you are a well-meaning guy who is writing a novel, but you have to know about how to dig a well, how to sell chicken and rice in the street, what happens with this, how do you cook this, when you buy boza, who is buying the boza, is your wife doing the dishes, who is putting the sugar in it, what if you don't sell, so for an endless question, how did your daughter marry, there's no end to these questions, and I love to ask these questions, and I'm very happy when I see people are bravely answering them, in fact, with enthusiasm. It sometimes works very well. Sometimes it's catastrophic. You can't convince people. They don't talk. They are not happy. It's a mistake to talk. Or sometimes, for example, when I was writing The Red-Haired Woman, I did interviews with people who dig wells to find water in Istanbul in 60s, 70s. And most of these people were construction people, because when you're not digging a well, you can also do construction, because it's more or less similar. I enjoy talking to these people, but once they begin to talk, I open my tape recorder, but I also handwrite whatever they say, proving my dedication to their words. After a while, they talk and talk and talk. Lots of details of my novels are also based on this kind of one-to-one interviews with people.
O tom romanu dosta ste pričali na svom gostovanju u Beogradu prije 2 godine. Tada ste rekli jednu veliku i posebnu stvar koja je onako pogodila, čini mi se, direktno u srce. Rekli ste da je Andrić, bosansko-hercegovački Nobelovac, pisao iz pozicije bosanskog muslimana. Šta ste time mislili reći?
I didn't say writing from the position of Bosnian Muslim. I said that I read Andrić when I was relatively young, in my early 20s. He was famous. What struck me was that he had the same distance with his Croatian, Serbian characters. He was not particularly sugarizing the Muslims, but he was not particularly negative about them, because what I saw most of the time was negative. So this was, in the end, a writer who is not a Muslim and portraying the Muslims in an objective way.
U posljednjem objavljenom romanu Žena crvene kose teme su očeubistvo i sinoubistvo. Kada ste otvorili kofer svoga oca i unutra pročitali njegove bilješke i tekstove, šta bi se desilo da ste otkrili da je vaš otac u stvari sjajan pisac?
Thank God he is not. Since he is smarter than me, he would have noticed it himself. Unfortunately, he was not. Also, I was sad about that. 2 years before he died, my father came to my office in a ceremonial way, in a little bit of a clumsy way, more clumsier than his usual charm, and say, here is something for you. He was already talking about this. a suitcase full of notebooks, full of literary writings, but they were not finished writings. They were excerpts, diaries, poetry translations, unfinished stories. Then I didn't read also very private things that I didn't want to read. I'll sometimes think, maybe I should read, maybe I'll read it tomorrow. And I didn't, some parts I didn't read, I can't read. So that was important for me. And in fact, I wrote an essay about my father's suitcase, because my father wanted to be a writer, but not very, he was not determined. He was not as serious as myself.
Koliko sam mogao primijetiti, on vas je jako volio i postoji onaj trenutak kad ste mu prvi put dali Cevdet i sinove. Nakon 2 sedmice došao i rekao mi je da ćete jednog dana dobiti Nobelovu nagradu.
Oh, yes, yes. Yes, this is very typical, I think, that I was writing a novel at home and even dropped out of a school of engineering and architecture. Was so busy with my novel. It took me, my first novel, 4 years to write. Of course, my father was curious. Am I really a good writer? Can I struggle till the end? What's happening? So he was one of the early readers of my first novel, Cevdet Bey and His Son. And then at that time, he was outside of Istanbul. He read the book in travel. So he came. I was very nervous seeing him because I trusted his literary sensibility. He had a good library. He was reading literature in English, French, Turkish. So I really was cared about his what he thought of my novel. And then I opened the door, and instead of saying anything, he embraced me, which was good. So now that you wanted me to talk about fathers and sons, I'm talking about fathers and sons. That was a moving thing in my life.
To je prekrasno svjedočenje, takav jedan diljiv odnos oca i sina. Najavili ste da krajem godine izlazi vaš novi roman, Noći kuge. Bavite se velikom temom, bavite se velikom temom kuge s druge polovine 19. vijeka. Možete li nam premijerno reći nešto više o tom romanu koji je vaš treći istorijski roman, nakon Bijelog zamka i nakon zovem se Crvena, ovo vaš treći istorijski roman.
Yes, I'm writing a historical novel now. It's called Nights of Plague. It takes place in an imaginary Ottoman island in Mediterranean. I am also inventing the island, which does not exist. In this Ottoman island, there is plague. Starting from mid-1890s, there was a plague pandemic coming from China and India. In fact, tens of millions of people died in China from the same pandemic, but nothing happened in Europe. Only 10, 20, 30 people died, not 10 million people. And my question, and this is a question not seriously asked as I hoped it was, why the people in Europe didn't die and why people died in millions in China, in India. Because medicine was the same medicine. Then, well, the answer is in my novel. You want me to explain everything?
Prema prognozama, vremenskim prognozama, sutra će u Sarajevu padati snijeg u 19:30 u Narodnom pozorištu. Roman Snijeg. Roman Snijeg objavili ste 2002. godine. Odmah se svidio Zapadu, ali ne toliko i turskim sekularistima. Zašto je to tako?
No, it's not that much, soften it. No, it's not like that. No. Both Turkish readers and international readers loved the book, but there was a problem with the Turkish readers because in the book I also wanted to portray Islamists, Islamic terrorists, radical terrorists, political people in an objective way. I begin to think of that novel in 1990s, political Islam. Khomeini was around, and then they were influencing Turkish opposition. I was worried about that. And I said to myself, I will write a political novel, only one in my life, and set this in northern eastern Turkish town of Kars. So in order to set the novel there, I went there. I lived there for a while, and it's a snowy, cold town on the Russian border. And I invented a story where it snows so much that the town is cut off from rest of Turkey, rest of civilization. It took me 3 years to write the book, and around the time that around the time that I was finishing the book, 9/11 happened. And at that time, there were twice my characters mentioned Osama bin Laden. So I deleted that out because I didn't want my readers to think that, 9/11 happened in New York, and Pamuk immediately wrote a novel. The book was partly successful in every way because of 9/11s, I sometimes think. But now it's again being staged in France, in Germany, and now also they are now preparing in New York. And now I'm happy that now tomorrow I will see my characters talking Bosnian. I'm very eager to see it. It's a political novel, and the play is also, I can imagine, will be very political. But it's also there is a naiveness and playfulness that make the book, the hard facts, acceptable. There is a humor in the book. I hope that also passes to the play.
Mislim da je jedan od likova u vašem romanu Snijeg također snijeg, kao materija, kao nešto što je jako živo, što je vrlo nježno i što promišlja i što misli i što diše.
And mostly it's snow. I understand what you mean, but the title is Snow because it snows so much in the book, and the character writes a poem called Snow. It's not in the book. In fact, after the book was published and popular, some poets wrote that poem, which is described in the book. But in the end, just like my novel, Strangers in My Mind, is not about yogurt or boza, it's about street vendors. Snow is not about snow, but politics in Turkey. There are the seculars, there are the fundamentalists, there is the hard fundamentalist Islam, soft Islam, and there are the nationalists, Turkish nationalists, Kurdish nationalists, there is the army, there is the leftists, the hardliners, the retired old hardliners, lots of groups fighting with each other. When I was writing Snow, I wanted to invent a sort of a miniature of Turkey and Turkish politics. The aim was to describe the whole world as it is, but also find poetry in it, humanity in it.
Posljednje pitanje. Gospodine Pamuk, 200 metara odavde u ovom pravcu prema istoku je Baščaršija. Pripada otomanskom periodu koji je trajao 450 godina. Mi sada sjedimo u reprezentativnom objektu iz austro-ugarskog doba u Bosni koji je trajao 40 godina. Malo niže dole prema zapadu je tempel, jevrejska sinagoga, u vrijeme Drugog svjetskog rata, zatvorena i prenamijenjena u instituciju kulture u doba socijalizma. Bosna sada iščekuje neko novo doba. Kao nekadašnja kolonija Otomanskog carstva, da li će ona tu sudbinu čekati zajedno sa savremenom Turskom ili kucajući na bezbroj već godina, kucajući na vrata Europske unije, ili nam već iz svog iskustva, vi ne znate o Bosni puno, ali iz svog turskog iskustva možete reći šta to znači kucati godinama na ista vrata sve manje i manje Europe.
Yes, Turkey is knocking the door of European Union for ages, but and European Union is refusing. I may be a bit critical of Sarkozy and Angela Merkel for that, but I cannot be too critical. And I also respect Angela Merkel after that, having taken 1 million refugees to Germany. That was impressive, and I respect her. But on the other hand, perhaps Sarkozy was more radical in rejecting Turkey. But on the other hand, Turkey was not doing its homework in free speech, in democracy, in respect for the rights of minorities. Free speech, to even 12 years ago, was troubled in Turkey, and that's why they were not taking. If Turkey had satisfied all the Copenhagen criteria and they wouldn't still taking Turkey, then I would be angry. But since there's no free speech in Turkey anymore, there is no, even the democracy ballot was disappearing. So when there's no free speech in Turkey, when so many writers are in jail, how can you say to Europe, you're prejudiced, you're not taking us? I don't think it's the same in Bosnia. The problems are, the reasons they are not, are different. But Turkey's main problem with European Union is democracy, free speech, putting writers, journalists in jail. Especially journalists are really in trouble.
Prije 2 dana održani su izbori u Istanbulu i vi ste rekli da ste jako sretni. Nekako ste tu i očekivali. Turci su pokazali jedan ponos, jednu snagu da ne žele biti prevareni po mom mišljenju. Šta će se promijeniti nakon ovih izbora u Istanbulu, ipak je to...
I don't know. I can never predict the future. Ask me the past. Yes, how can I know? But, of course, what we want is democracy. Unfortunately, the country is in a stage of fear, and anyone who criticizes, especially the journalists who criticize the government, end up in jail. I'm upset about that. Upset is a soft word. I am angry about that. But we'll see. I am very happy about this fact that the government wanted to steal the election that the opposition won. They did embarrassing tricks and lies, and they lost even the votes of their own people because they were cheating so much. Even their people did not vote for them. I'm very happy about that. But this may be a good lesson to the government. I hope so. But Turkish people definitely want their voting ballot. Maybe we hope that they also want more free speech, but they demand their voting ballot, and if anyone cheats it, steals it from them, they slapped back. I'm very happy to see that 2 days ago.
Na kraju, gospodine Pamuk, dopustite mi da kažem jednu privatnu stvar. Moja opčinjenost načinom na koji uspijevate oživiti stvari i unijeti nas u svaki detalj, u svaki karakter, u svaki događaj o kojem pišete, daje mi za pravo da kažem da ste vi pisac od kojeg sam ja kao čitalac i kao pisac u životu od književnosti dobio najviše. Fantastična je ta nit koju ste omotali oko nas i spojili nas sa drugima i onima koji su živjeli prije nas, onima poslije nas i sa nama samima. Hvala vam, bila mi je velika čast i zadovoljstvo razgovarati s vama.
Thank you so much for all your work. Your work is absolutely inspiring. I cannot get enough of it.